things are definitely booming here, but we're getting so big we have to move into that larger space over in the new building.
Great. The new building is pre-wired with Twisted Pair, which is good. But we will need to install a new hub and convert your existing adapters.
Fine. Do whatever you have to do. Just don't try to get me a deal on a metric faucet. You know what I mean?
No, not exactly.
Well...
You ever have one of those conversations? Anyway, that was Donald I was talking to. He's our manager of financial services here at World Horizons. I'm the network manager. A few days ago, Donald asked me to come in and talk to him about upgrading his computer network. The conversation was going fine, except that Donald kept rambling on about this home improvement project he was working on.
So this guy's, he's got this beautiful German faucet. He wants to sell me for 45 bucks. Believe me, it was tempting, but hey, I'm no fool. I figured out right away there was metric. I'd have to go to a lot of trouble to make it fit.
Let me see if I understand. What you're saying is you don't want to spend a lot of time and money trying to adapt your network upgrade to existing hardware and wiring.
You're reading me loud and clear.
It wasn't easy, but I was beginning to understand Donald. He just wanted his network upgrade to be as simple and inexpensive as possible. That's why I thought of 3Com. They make everything for networks, from the smallest LAN to the most complex wide area networks. Ethernet adapters, wiring hubs, and internetworking products. And they're all made to work together seamlessly. But I'm getting ahead of the story. When I first came to talk to Donald, his existing Novell network was supporting 5 nodes, running over thin Ethernet. Each PC was connected to the network with a 3Com Etherlink 2 adapter. But Donald's department was growing rapidly, and he had to add another 10 nodes right away. The catch was that he was moving into a new building that had pre-installed Twisted Pair wiring, not thin Ethernet. I figured, why not get Donald started with a 3Com Link Builder 10BT wiring hub? The price is right, and it seemed like a good match. For one thing, it's got 12 RJ45 ports that can be expanded to accommodate Donald's 15 nodes. And for another, we'd be able to connect Donald's 5 existing Etherlink 2 adapter cards into the Link Builder 10BT. All we'd need to do is convert them to Twisted Pair via Etherlink TP 10BASE-T transceivers. As for the new nodes Donald was adding, I recommended 3Com's new Etherlink 2 16TP, 16-bit Twisted Pair adapters for the ISA PCs. But Donald was also adding some high-performance PS2 computers to his network. For those, I recommended the Etherlink MC32 TPX adapters with bus mastering. Now, when I mentioned to 3Com that we were moving a LAN into a building with pre-installed Twisted Pair wiring, product manager Randy Stott gave me this tip for do-it-yourself network improvement.
Just remember, Jane, that not all Twisted Pair wiring is the same. If the cabling was installed more than 5 years ago, it may be pre-standard Twisted Pair. So just to be safe, it's a good idea to test existing Twisted Pair wiring to make sure it's suitable for data transmission. There are a lot of products you can use to run the tests, including the Microtest Next Scanner. If you use any additional wire, for instance to run to your administrative pool, we recommend you order the highest data grade possible, level 4 or 5, from a cabling vendor such as AT&T. And remember, it must all be Twisted Pair, not flat silver satin or ribbon cable. Hope that helps, Jane.
Randy's advice came in handy later during the installation. But getting back to Donald. At this point, I explained to him my plan for converting to Twisted Pair using the Link Builder 10BT hub. Believe it or not, this is what he said.
Well, it sounds good. I love the price. But one thing I don't want is for you to put in an 8-circuit electrical panel when 6 months from now, I'm going to need 12 circuits.
Translation? I want to be able to expand and upgrade. Good point. Donald's department was growing so rapidly, he had to think about the future. That's one reason I felt good about the Link Builder 10BT hub. But let me explain a little bit how I came to that conclusion. See, before I knew about 3Com's Link Builder 10BT hub, it seemed as if there were only a couple of choices for people like Donald. You could go with one of 3Com's smart multi-purpose hubs. They're the ones that give you multimedia and multifunctionality plus network management. but that would be overkill for a small department like Donald's and out of reach for his budget. For price, you could go with a transparent or non-manageable fixed port hub. That's fine, but what if you wanted to add network management sometime in the future? You'd have to junk the fixed port hub and replace it with a managed or intelligent hub. But throwing out all the old hubs would be a real waste of money. And besides, you'd still be dealing with the fixed port hub and all of its limitations. At the time, it seemed like a real problem. But then I talked to 3Com product manager Jean Young, and here's what she told me.
You see, Jane, traditional fixed port hubs can only be connected in one of three ways. You can cascade them, you can daisy chain them, or you can multi-drop them. But all of these connectivity schemes have drawbacks. First, you lose the ports that are dedicated to connecting the hubs together. Second, you lose performance. Since each hub is a separate logical repeater, the signal has to be retimed at each repeater level. Plus, separate repeaters also limit growth and network layout flexibility. Ethernet's 4-repeater rule limits the number of repeaters you can have between any two users. And finally, since each hub is a logically separate hub, if you want management, you have to buy 4 intelligent hubs and manage each of them separately. All these problems are solvable, though, with a chassis-based hub that has a shared backplane and functions as one logical repeater. But the main problem with a chassis is its high cost, especially for small to medium-sized networks with configurations of less than 48 nodes. So those are the limitations you're faced with using traditional hub solutions. What you need is the flexibility of a chassis at the cost of a fixed port hub. And that's why LinkBuilder 10BT is the perfect choice.
That was when I first found out about the LinkBuilder 10BT. I did some more investigating and discovered that it really does act like a chassis hub. Let me show you what I mean. You can expand the number of users on your network just by connecting an out connector on one hub to the in connector on the new hub. That's because the hub expansion cable acts like a 10 megabit chassis backplane. It connects multiple hubs to form one logical repeater. Now don't make the same mistake I did. I took one look at that expansion cable and figured it was just an ordinary SCSI 2 cable, but it's actually a special cable from 3Com. Anyway, in addition to the 12 RJ45 ports, each LinkBuilder 10BT gives you a built-in AUI port. If you plug in a transceiver, you can use the AUI port to connect to a thick or thin coax or fiber optic backbone. Or you have the option to use the AUI port as a 13th 10BASE-T port, just by connecting a node via the Etherlink TP 10BASE-T transceiver. That's what I like about LinkBuilder 10BT. It's got a lot of features that make it easy for people like me who have to install and maintain the system. Take this uplink switch. If you need to cascade the hubs, you just move the switch to the uplink position. The transmit and receive pairs get switched internally. No messing around with special crossover cables. Then there's the LinkBuilder 10BT LED displays that make diagnostics easy. You can monitor the activity, link integrity, polarity, and partition status for each port. The AUI port even has its own LEDs that show when it's active or partitioned. Another way 3Com makes things easy is with their optional single-port media modules. You can connect directly to thin coax with their single-port BNC module, or you can go direct to fiber with their single-port fiber module. What I like about these modules is that they're hot swappable. Nothing to take apart and no downtime. Just a couple of screws and you're set. As I explained all this to Donald, his eyes really glazed over. But suddenly he woke up and sprung a very interesting question on me.
Well, all that sounds good, but what happens when my network gets bigger? Won't we need to worry about managing the network?
Let me tell you about the LinkBuilder 10BTI. Now, it's got these different features that I can talk about. Donald was pleased to hear that I could give him network management support just by adding a single LinkBuilder 10BTI managed hub to his network. I went on to explain that the LinkBuilder 10BTI would give him SNMP-based management for up to 3 transparent LinkBuilder 10BT hubs. That's one of the great advantages of LinkBuilder's single logical repeater design. In addition to its management capability, the LinkBuilder 10BTI has all the features of the transparent LinkBuilder 10BT hub. The only difference you can see from the outside is the RS-232 port on the back and the 10BTI written on the front. So far, so good. Donald was delighted that the LinkBuilder 10BT would meet all his future needs. And I was delighted because I knew that 3Com had made it simple for me to meet those needs. But of course, Donald, being Donald, waited until the very end of the discussion to throw me a curve.
By the way, Jane, I forgot to mention my local area network has to be connected to Linda's network over in Building 2. And then by the end of the month, we'll need to be connected to the network at headquarters back in Springfield. Now that's not going to be a problem for you, is it?
Donald, you're just telling me this now?
Well, what? What's the problem?
It's like we've just finished tacking up all the sheetrock, and you're telling me you need to add 2 or 3 outlets around the room.
Oh. Oh, sorry.
I knew that connecting Donald's network to a LAN next door was no problem. I could do that using 3Com's ISOLAN bridge. But I wasn't at all sure how to connect him to headquarters in Springfield. To get an answer, I turned to 3Com product manager Doug Sherman.
No problem. Connecting the remote sites is as easy as connecting to the nearby buildings. This is done by installing a NetBuilder remote bridge in each location. Just connect a NetBuilder to each hub using the local Ethernet port and then connect the 2 sites using a T1 line. NetBuilder will increase your overall network performance and allow you to connect your sites regardless of the distance involved. NetBuilder also provides a way to control the network, filtering the local traffic. With NetBuilder, your corporate headquarters is as close as next door.
Simple. So later that day I got back to Donald and confirmed that we would have no problem connecting him to the network back at headquarters. Then I kind of summarized for Donald the advantages of all the 3Com products I'd be installing, like the Etherlink 2 16TP and the Link Builder 10BT. He seemed to be really happy with my recommendations, although it's always a little hard to tell with Donald. That pretty much sums it up. Does that sound pretty good to you?
Yeah, well, so what you're telling me is I'm getting, like, the advantages of a compound miter saw, but at the price of a simple miter saw, right?
Right. That's exactly it.
Because you see, a miter saw, you can turn all various angles, but a simple miter saw...
By the end of my conversation with Donald, I could really see what he was talking about. You know, improving your network is a lot like improving your home. You've got to think ahead and select the right products at the right price. That's why I turned to 3Com. From lower-cost hubs like the flexible Link Builder 10BT to high-end hubs. From PC adapters like the Etherlink 2 16TP to high-performance Macintosh and microchannel adapters. And from local to remote bridges, 3Com lets me offer users like Donald network solutions they can live with and grow with for a long time to come. Gee, I wonder why he isn't using Wonderboard for this shower stall.